Yep, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. I'm Jan Walters, currently chair of the Colne Valley Care Cooperative. I'm not going to spend a great deal of time talking myself, because the interesting feature of tonight is really to let everybody know, particularly our supporters and investors, how we're getting on with the real lifetime delivery of care services, which we're very excited to have started in the last just over a month now. We are recording, as I think Veronica has already shared, so if anybody has got a particular problem with that, they could please let Veronica know. And we're just recording the first part with the presentations rather than the question section at the end. Okay, so we're going to start with Sue Richards, who I think most people know already. We've already been to any of these webinars. Sue is our nominated individual, expert in health and social care, and has really been taking the lead over this last few months. Well, we've had a change of registered manager just as we were about to launch. So I'll hand over to Sue. Thank you.
I'm just going to share my screen, which I've never done before, so hopefully this will work. And you'll be able to tell me if it is. Has that worked?
Yep.
You can see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So this is about the Cooperative Care Colne Valley. I'm going to do this really quickly because I started off thinking, well, I've got a lot to say, but actually since then we've had a couple of much more interesting, not that the others aren't, but a couple of particularly interesting things from people who are experiencing using our services. So I'm going to go really quick. Really happy to talk to anybody individually or to answer any questions at the end. So I think we started with a vision, and our vision is primarily about the people who use our service, and not just providing a service, but helping people to live the life they want to. Cooperative values are really important to us in that we want to be inclusive, and we want to make sure that people are able to contribute to decisions about their lives, the way the service develops, their work. Important to that is about our, we know that staff are not always supported with good terms and conditions, and we want to ensure that a main part of what we do is that we support and include our staff in decisions about their work, but also the service that we offer. Also important to us is how ethical and sustainable we are. So we want to ensure that we are not having a negative footprint on the environment, and that's particularly important to many of our board members. We want the Co-op to be part of a community in the same way that we want our staff and people who use our services to be part of our community. And we want people who use services and their carers to lead the decisions, and lead is the important word there, and then to involve all members in the development of the Colne Valley Cooperative, because we know that there's a broad range of experience in the membership, and that will help us going forward. The board, interesting, people have different passions, but are good listeners. So for some people, the main reason they came into this is that they believe in cooperative values. For others, their main driver is the ability to offer a different sort of support and care. For some people, it's about ethical and sustainable. So our passions are different, but what we find is that if you're good listeners and understand other people's passions, that's what makes a difference. Whole set of different skill sets. Jan described me as an expert. I have worked in care and support for a lot of years at various levels, including as a care assistant. But we have a range of people who have different skill sets, both on the board and also who support us. We support each other. Times are tough sometimes, and they really are, and we get scared about what we're doing, but I think we are really mutual supportive. And the board, I think important to say, the board changes over time according to where we are on the journey. You have different phases in your journey. The preparation is one, the startup is one, and then the becoming a business that's operating in a normal way is another one. Right, the challenges. Right, so mainly sticking to our principles in a tight financial environment. The way that local authorities are funded to deliver social care, as I know to my cost and others here will know, has diminished over recent years. So we want to ensure, you know, we've had various debates, and I won't go into the detail, but I can if people want to ask questions about. We wanted to ensure that we guaranteed staff hours right from the start. We found that we wouldn't be sustainable over the first 9 months if we did that. So we at the moment can only pay staff for what they deliver, but we stick to that principle of being able to do that. And essentially that we work with our staff to talk about how that feels, how it's working for them. Charging is another one. I think we all set off thinking we shouldn't charge more to people who self-fund, but actually we couldn't make it work on the amount of money that's paid through direct payments. Recruiting a registered manager, we had 3 attempts at doing that. That was difficult because when you're setting up, it's not an attractive position to be in. We pay well, but it's a very small service, and people don't know if it's going to work. And then with all that going on, the pandemic swept in and delayed everything and made things a lot more difficult. CQC is always a challenge. I think they're learning like we are, but they measure things which are not always important to the people who we support in the Colne Valley. And staying small. You know, the council will only commission services if you are above 400 hours. That's difficult if you decide that you're going to stay in a small geographical area. We think it's important to stay in that small geographical area. The economies of scale that you have in staying small are much more difficult. But if you believe that you should be part of a community isn't the whole of Kirklees or the whole of West Yorkshire. The support. So we had support from the council with a critical secondment of a registered manager. Wouldn't have got off the ground without that, and that was fantastic. It takes a lot of work, so the board and others have put in an awful lot of time to make this work. Again, couldn't have got off the ground without the share offer. People believing in us and people investing money in the cooperative. Again, Veronica and others have been vital in making sure that we link up with others who are trying to do the same things. And I describe it as this keeps us going sometimes, because it is a hard thing to do something new. But when you talk to other people who believe in the same things, it makes such a difference. And then we have got real good support from council departments regarding ensuring that whilst we can't be commissioned by the council, we can be we can have signposting for people, particularly people with direct payments. And I just dubbed this in the end, and I didn't know whether it was going to sound, this isn't about me, but for people who are thinking of doing this, one of the most difficult things I think is getting somebody who is dedicated to it to be the nominated individual, because I think you would struggle if you didn't get a nominated individual who was, and that's pure chance. You know, that is pure chance that they happened upon me and I happened upon them. But there does need to be somebody who's got the level of commitment and the level of knowledge to doing that. So I think if people are thinking of doing this, nominated individual is a key role. And there might be different ways of doing it that people find. That's all I've got to say. I've tried to be really quick and hopefully I haven't bored anybody. I'm going to try and stop sharing now. Stop share. Yeah. Manage that.
Well done.
So now I'm going to introduce Danielle, who obviously featured very highly in that last bit. Danielle is going to just talk about her experience of being a registered manager. Thank you.
Hello, quite nervous. I'm going to just share my screen with you. I haven't got many slides, I've got two. And the first one you'll be happy to know is a nice little introduction. So, I'm Danielle. So, why Cooperative Care Colne Valley for me? For me, it appealed because it had an ambition for difference. It was a non-profit organisation, or it is a non-profit organisation, and I found that was a really key way of avoiding exploitation. It was a very strong way of being able to put the funds and the money that comes back into the system, so that only people that can benefit are everybody involved, and not really to branch out on the capitalism of a big dog sat at the top reaping the benefits. So that really appealed to me after working in other agencies where, you know, that has happened, and it was all about hours and it was all about money and not so much about the people. And the ethics and values, they're from a community for a community. And I just don't think that you can really invest your time and your money in anything else that you know you're going to benefit from when it's on your doorstep. And I think that was something that really, you know, really appealed to me. Each member, I feel, it's definitely something I want to put across as a registered manager, but each member is equal and valued the same. And there isn't one person that I would try and give more time to than anybody else. I definitely think you need to treat everybody as an individual, and in some cases some people may need more of my time, which is absolutely fine. A strong believer that staff are the force in representing our organisation. I've worked as a care assistant. I've been in the position that they're in now, and I cannot be more thankful for everything that they put in, the time, their skills, and it's just paramount. So each and every single person that's involved, they deserve the same mutual respect from all of us, and the same opportunity as well. And I'd really like to be able to grow our staff and develop them as much as they're happy to. Something I'm quite passionate about, and I believe that Cooperative Care Colne Valley are as well. So I'm going to go into week one. Week one for me, all systems go, literally. I had to learn all of the systems. I did have some introductions to them. I wasn't thrown in the deep end completely, but there was a lot to get around. It's a very big role. There was not only policies and procedures to get my head around, but obviously the systems that we use as well. So that was quite a good challenge. We had one user member at the point of my starting, and also 2 staff, which was a good start. I wanted to jump straight in, learn as much as I could as quickly as I can, whilst we were still able to have that, I was still able to have that time before we got a little bit too busy, and also before we had our new community manager started, which I know that I'll come on to shortly. There were some areas where I felt I could bring my experience from my previous roles into, and one of them was recruitment. And I was hoping that some of the systems and processes that we used at the time, we could develop into something that I've used in the past, which was user friendly for all involved, myself and Claire, who is our finance officer, and also my right hand lady, and also for Abe as well, when he will be contributing within the recruitment. So yeah, it was a really good flexible system that I was able to put a bit of a mark on straight away. The other thing that I really enjoyed from my first week was meeting the staff. We had a meeting, myself, the nominated individual, Sue, and the 2 staff, and it was just really positive to know that we were all on the same footing. We were all there for the same reasons. And the 2 staff in particular have just been extremely supportive, understanding where we are as a company, and understanding that the hours may just be a little bit rocky at first, but together we can really, you know, make it work as if they stick with us. And you know, their response was just incredible. It was really quite endearing, so quite happy with that. So I'm going to jump to week 3. I've named this Steady Increase because Steady Increase, we were 3 user members now on board, so 1 a week, which is a nice little climb. I was becoming a lot more involved in the assessments, care plans, Obviously rotas now we're building quite a bit. We were doing things like meet and greets, and that might have been with either one of the staff or both of them at the same time. We just balanced it and worked it between us. So there was a lot of time taken up there, which was just great to be out in the field really, and meeting with the user members. We had some interviews booked in, which was great. We were actually seeing now the new systems in action, bringing in Claire as well to work alongside with the recruitment. So that was, you know, a bit of a development for her, due to not doing much with recruitment before. So yeah, it was nice. It was I was feeling quite confident. I had a very supportive team in office and on the field. Sue, as my nominated individual, has been extremely supportive. I actually spent some of the time this week as well getting to know each of the board members and meeting with them individually, which is really important because each person really has something special to bring. And yeah, seeing the strong ethos of the company really being put into some working practice right now, and everybody was feeling quite good. Week 5, balancing act. This is this week, by the way. My role is growing. I'm busier, much busier. We have a new community manager that you'll be meeting very shortly. So this is where now, not only am I managing things like the care plans and the assessments and bringing in new referrals and recruitment, but we now have someone else on board in the office that brings into my managerial role as well, which is really exciting. Meetings. We have marketing meetings, and we have regulated services meetings, and we have meetings with the nominated individual, and I have finance meetings, and I have staff meetings. So meetings are, you know, they're fantastic because we need to communicate, and communication is one of the most focal points for me, and it's a way of us moving forward and growing. So that was really important. Getting some new referrals through. Now this is one of the things that I will come to in a moment. Recruiting was building a little bit. We've had some issues with recruiting, which I'm going to touch on some of the challenges in a minute. One of the important things that I've been trying to do as well is just build myself up in the community. I've been building social media around the community and just trying to get out there a little bit myself as well. And the pink hair can be a bit of a giveaway if you see me walking down the street. That's like Danielle from Cooperative Care, Colne Valley. You know, it's a signature haircut now. So hopefully you'll be able to spot me from New Street. And also the biggest part of this point where I'm at now is building the relationships with our user members and with the staff and everybody else that I'm involved in. And that is so important because I have seen some really impressive progresses in some of our user members from when we first started. Like you've just met Rain, and when we first met, it was a very difficult time for her. The body language was quite nervous. She was quite, very difficult time for her. Whereas you can probably see from the pictures that you just had on the screen, we were literally having a ball and we were taking pictures. She's had her hair done, she had makeup on, her confidence levels have just grown so much. And you know, such an amazing thing that I can now be in her house and feel very relaxed around her, and she's very relaxed around me. And that's really something that's been important this week. So going back to the balancing act, at the moment I'm in a situation where we are getting some new referrals through. Recruitment is very difficult because we are in a situation where we can't offer full contracted hours for full time because the referrals we're coming through aren't full time. So the right staff are the people that are able to take on the hours that we can offer at the time, which it's all about what's right for them and what position they're in their life, and is it something that can work for them, because it has to work for them, not just us. I can recruit people all day long, but it's not going to work if it's not going to be right for them. So you know, we have some challenges there, but I'm very positive that we'll overcome them, and I'm very positive that there is it's a matter of time before we have the right people and a very solid team on board. In fact, I had an interview today and I'm extremely excited about her coming on board. So yeah. Challenges, I've not got much really to write here. There's challenges working with people. That's also in my highlights though, because I love working with people. we have a few challenges that we have come across with some of the systems. I mean, it's about learning and it's about growth and it's about understanding what can we do with this system and how much can we utilize it. And actually, this isn't going to work for this particular area. So how do we, you know, find something that is going to work? I do think you'll find that with any sort of startup business. So Claire is such a huge support when it comes to that in the office, because she has a great way of finding, either exploring, researching and finding other ways and finding ways that we can work with things. And even if it's just our rota system and we're coming across a bit of a challenge there. So very thankful for Claire. We've had some, again, things like invoicing. How are we going to do this? Does this work for this person, but it might not work for us? Does it work for the system, but does it work for the staff? So these are the challenges that we're working with. And, you know, staff in general, we have challenges where we've had a couple of absences where, even though I see them as challenges, I also see them as highlights, because I've been able to actually go out and do the shift myself. Sue is also fully compliant as a staff member, so Sue's really enjoyed going out and doing the odd one. Not many, to be fair, we haven't done many because we've got a good staff team. But yeah, so the challenges, but the crossover into the highlights, the learning and the growing and the excitement that we have for where this can go, it's just in us, all of us, and it's excellent. I love it. And seeing the positive change in people is really just, you know, such a highlight for me. So yeah, the challenges that we described, or I described, they're highlights too, because I think it's all about learning and growth, and where can we go, where can I go in my role, and where can we go as a company and organisation. So I just want to take you on to a quote that we have a husband and wife that we are caring particularly for. N would not like to use her own name because they didn't get any permissions for that, but a quote from her husband, and I'll just leave it there. So there's been a dramatic improvement in N since Cooperative Care, Colne Valley, have been working with her, and I'm very pleased about how far she's come. I'm very happy with everything you've been doing, and most importantly, the same team of staff being regular has been really helped build N. I certainly cannot knock any of the efforts from the care team and the support from Danielle, not only for N, but for myself too. So what we witnessed with this particular couple was that in the very first week, in fact, in the very first shift, as we entered, N was quite poorly, and we did end up getting an ambulance, and throughout that week she was in and out of hospital 4 times. So it was a very, very testing time for everybody. Mr. J felt like he may have to have made some difficult decisions moving forward. What we have seen now, a few weeks in, is just such an improvement, a very relaxed household. Mr. J is extremely relaxed. His confidence is built with us. N has really settled down in her. She has good days and bad days. She has dementia, so we are in you know, some days are difficult, some days are okay, but it's just an absolute joy and absolute pleasure to spend time with them. And I actually just go around for a brew last week, so that was really nice. So yeah, again, another early days, only a few weeks in, but such an improvement already. And I think the importance there is just to look at how he's seen such a difference in his wife in such a short time. So thank you very much. That is my my spiel complete. So thank you, but I am going to just move on slightly because one of our other user members is with us tonight. I'll just stop my screen. And I do actually have just a few questions, and I know that she's going to contribute a little bit to us. We've been working with Alice just for a few weeks, but Alice, over to you if that's okay. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course, Danielle. So I'm Alice. I'm 25. I'll be 26 in 2 weeks. As my stepdad likes telling me, I'm rapidly approaching 30. I am a very driven individual, and I'm very focused. And although I have quadriplegic cerebral palsy and I'm a full-time wheelchair user, I wanted a lively care service, a modern care service that reflected that. because even though I have a disability, I am a brand ambassador for an African Wildlife Foundation, as well as some other foundations and other voluntary work. I have been involved in the film industry when I was a little bit younger, but I came out of that and decided to do conservation instead. And now I do a lot of work, like I say, with organisations based in Africa. So my life is very busy, even though I do work from home. And even, like I say, even though I've got a disability, I would consider myself to have full capacity. So I wanted a care company that treated me like I have full capacity and like the 26-year-old woman that I am.
25.
25.
So actually, just coming on to that, Alice, you are fundraising at the moment, is that right? Because you're quite involved in things like fundraising.
Yeah, it's true. At the foundation that I work for, we support the local native people called the San. And in the San village, there's a young woman called Aniki. She's 18 and she has cerebral palsy as well. And she's really been struggling over her whole life. She lived under a tree with her grandmother up until very recently, when the volunteers from the charity that I work with built her a house. And now we are fundraising so that we can build her mum, who suffers with schizophrenia and is such unable to look after Annika. We're looking at building her a house too. So yeah, we're fundraising to ensure that all 3 generations of women can live together in peace and security, and hopefully that will provide Sarah with some support, and hopefully she'll be able to get better.
Brilliant. It sounds amazing, actually, Alice. I absolutely love listening to you talking about everything that you get involved in. I know you mentioned just a little bit about why you chose us, why you were looking for a modern care company. So can you just maybe give me a little bit of a rundown then of what your experience is of us over the past few weeks, and maybe any highlights or and lowlights, any negatives, please, as well. It's all about learn and growth for us. So.
Well, to tell you the truth, Danielle, there has been no lowlights, just because everything has been brilliant so far. One of my favourite things happened today, actually, when my carer Jodie, on Tuesday, she came with a salad, and she said, I said, oh, that looks nice, and she said, oh, do you want me to get you one for Thursday? And her imagination ran away with her a little bit, and she was like, oh, let's have a picnic, let's have a feast. And she turned up today with 2 salad boxes, a packet of Pringles, 2 sticky buns, and a bag of chocolate orange buttons. And still got the bag of chocolate orange buttons, she left them for me. But as I'm currently isolating because of coronavirus, or I have been isolating, should I say, shielding, that's the right word. It's been a bit of a lonely time for me. So having people coming in and doing that means the world, because at the minute I've not had any social interaction for nearly a year. So it's so valued and it's so important. And you'll know yourself that we've had a lot of laughs over the past couple of weeks. You know what I'm referring to. And yeah, it's just so great to find people that I can laugh with, that bring a bit of light into my day. Yeah, are still the epitome of professionalism. You know, I cannot fault the office standard. It's amazing. Up until a few months ago, the other care company that I was with, their the office side of things were all over the place. You couldn't understand your rotas, whereas here the rotas are remarkably clear. I know who's coming in and out and when. And as someone who also has mental health difficulties, because I have OCD and autistic traits, and as such value routine, that is like a paramount importance to me. So I think, yeah, there's absolutely no lowlights. You're all doing a fantastic job. They're all highlights so far, and keep up the good work.
Oh, thank you. Alice, is now a good time to tell you that we have actually arranged a little bit of a birthday lunch for you in a couple of weeks. A little bit of a picnic box, actually. It's a lunch for two. And I will connect with you and ask you what date and who you want to join you for that, whether it's you and your mum or one of us. More than welcome. We'll talk about that again. So thank you so much.
Excellent.
Thank you so much. So thank you very much, Jan and Veronica. Over to you guys.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Danielle and Alice. Really, really inspiring what you're doing personally, but also so happy that you're pleased with the service that you're getting from us so far. So we're now just going to hand over to our newest recruit, which is Abraham Richards, who is taken over as our community development officer. Obviously, he's going to explain his ideas, and the remit for Abe basically is to bring in all the extra stuff and to keep us on the path that we are. You know, it's early days for us, and it's fantastic that we're doing so well, but we have just got a few clients, and so what we need to do is make sure that we strengthen so that we can continue to provide this level of service that we're doing at the moment all the way through. So it's no easy task for Abe, but he seems to be up for it. So I'm going to hand you over. And
hi. You'll have to excuse my hair. I don't know what happened. It seems to have gone a bit haywire. Anyway, I'm Abe. I have been in post for nearly 2 weeks now, and it has been a whirlwind 2 weeks, to say the least. I am not going to talk about what I've done in the past 2 weeks. What I am going to talk about is what I want to do moving forward and how that fits with both the community aspect of what we do and also the regulated service aspect. I think one of the things that we can all take from what we've heard so far is that we are on the right path and we're doing all right. I think Alice has kind of just blown me away with what she's been saying, and I noticed inspiring is a word that's been used, and I would agree. So in terms of what I want to do and where my vision is and what I want to see, I want us to become an organisation that is not just about care. I want us to become an organisation that is about community, is about everybody involved, including our user members, including their family, including their friends, including the local businesses, including everybody that is invested in community. And so I've kind of done a bit of a, I suppose, outline of what I see that being, and titled it, probably not particularly innovatively, is bringing Colne Valley together. I think isolation is something that has been a problem for people for a long, long time, especially people who've got mobility problems, physical disabilities, and the aging population. I think through lockdown, people's confidence to leave their home, meet other people has decreased drastically, and that's led to increased feelings of loneliness and isolation. Cooperative Care Colne Valley has a number of people using our service who wish to socialise, meet other people, but lack maybe the confidence, the motivation, and the connections to be able to do this. People have lost touch with friends, acquaintances that they'd previously met up with or bumped into. And without using technology or having the skills to do this, it's been and continues to be difficult to rebuild these relationships. People who care for others, I think, are particularly affected by this because they can become worried or guilty about leaving the person they care for to do something for themselves. The Colne Valley, the businesses and organisations that operate within it are, I think, in my view, well known for social conscience. And through conversation with those organisations, businesses and people who live there, there's a real desire and eagerness to add social value to the way that people operate. Whilst the desire's there, these organisations, these people, these businesses lack maybe the connections or the knowledge or the capacity to reach out to the isolated members of their communities. I think people overall are generally reluctant and embarrassed to be labelled as needy or vulnerable, and are likely to have been independent, proud and self-sufficient previously, but not always. This transition can sometimes, for somebody who requires support with things from somebody who has been independent their whole lives, can be incredibly challenging. And I think one of the things that Danielle mentioned about N and Mr. J, we saw that it can be painful for these people sometimes. Our desire as an organisation is to support people to come together as communities and support each other. I think one of the things that I'm really keen on is sustaining, so self-sustaining. So we can support people to set things up, but we don't want to be overseeing and running these things. If they are self-sustaining, that gives community ownership of these things. I think breaking down stigma and difficulties faced by people who feel lonely and isolated is one of the number one things. And our whole ethos and everything we do is about bringing Colne Valley together. I've got a few projects that are kind of whirring around in my head. These link in with the community aspect of the organisation. They also link in with another bit of my role, which links very closely as the kind of overseeing the anchor organisation. So that's was set up with regards to ensuring that with the primary care networks, to support them and GPs in the local area to avoid using medical interventions, trying to look at social prescribing. And then COVID hit, which then slightly changed the role of the anchor. I think we're coming out the other side of that now, and the anchor is becoming what it was initially set up to be. So I'll give you a very, very brief overview. I don't want to go on too long about these projects, but there's a couple of things, and they're only baseline ideas at the minute. I'm kind of in the process of working out how we will do it. But one of the things that I'm really keen on is the idea of a street champion. And the aim of this project would be to create street champions in really small, localized areas. So that could be street, that could be blocks of apartments, that could be estates. And this person would take on as much or as little responsibility for as large or as small an area as they wish to. Some ideas of what the role of the street champion would include brokering conversations with people in the area regarding what people would like to do, maybe a street party for a specific occasion like the Queen's birthday. The street champion hopefully would become a source of knowledge regarding their area and the people and organisations that are within that area. This could then increase when somebody new moves to the area. This person would go or could go knock on the door and say, "Hi, I'm such a body who lives at number 10. We've also got in this area Mr. X who lives at number 15, and he is really knowledgeable about his garden. He loves to do gardening. If you are struggling to keep your garden maintained, he'd love to come and do that." And then sharing these skills and kind of information of the local area so that this community grows. So that's kind of a brief overview of that. Then another thing I want to kind of look at and explore is let's chat about the past. And I think through conversation with people in the community, we found that people are interested in reminiscing about the past, remembering life in the Colne Valley and the wider Kirklees area as they were growing up, and hearing about that life. So younger people or people who are interested would like to hear about that. And so somehow creating these conversations between maybe older people, younger people, or a group of older people or a group of younger people or whoever wants to get involved and ensuring they have a space to have these conversations. And that brings me on to the third thing that kind of in my head is old and young. And when I was a child, I always loved hearing stories from older people. I love to hear about their life. I love to hear about what they did as they were growing up. I love to hear about the difference between the world now and the world then. And I think a lot of people like that and loved to support older people. So I'm quite tech savvy. So I always found that when I was in conversations with older people who maybe weren't so tech savvy, they would give me my knowledge, my understanding, my kind of enjoyment of having a conversation, and I could give back to them by teaching them to use technology. And that's just one sort of small idea, but bringing together the older and the younger population and creating community there. But also, I think there is sometimes can be a real division between the older population and the younger population in certain areas. I think the younger population sometimes don't have the respect, and the older population don't have the understanding of what kind of gets the younger population going. And if we can create those conversations, then to me that's a success. So yeah, that was a brief stop talk, and it's not detailed as yet because I've only been in post a week and a half, but hopefully they are just some ideas that go towards bringing Colne Valley together. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Abe. And I think we got a really good snapshot there of the energy that we are sort of delighted to have sort of embraced in both our newest staff members in Danielle and Abe. It's really, you know, very invigorating for us.